good evening, good morning, everybody. I hope you're not as sweaty as I'm feeling, but it's time for episode number 3. It's episode 3 already, I can't believe it, of the Complete Collections Challenge by Captain Gesso. And we are now kind of on the finale of my Collector's Tin promos episode, series, whatever you want to call it, part of this challenge. Today's the big day. I finally got the last piece in the mail. I now have all 6 promos. I have them here. I have them in my hands. We're going to go look at the last 2 today. I haven't even looked at conditions yet. I haven't really touched them. I obviously briefly looked at them, but other than taking the tape off the top loaders, we haven't even looked at them yet today. I'm going to throw some video up on the screen. These look pretty damn friggin' sexy. I am super excited to have these. I'm like, something, again, just huge for my childhood. I'm like super incredibly happy to get these. So we're going to go over today, like I said, the last couple that I got, talk a little bit about those, and then we're going to go into what the next part of my series is going to be, what I want to do next. I've kind of already spoiled that, but we'll talk about that. But let's have a look first and foremost. So we've already went through these 4 guys here. We've talked about these a little bit, gone over kind of what they are, what they do, where they're from. Again, these weren't incredibly meta-defining, meta-relevant. We talked about how some of these have a misprint, if you will. I don't like calling it a misprint. It's a factory error of some sort, where some of these don't get the secret rare foiling. We get super rare, so I was really excited to show those off. But we're going to have a look at the last 2 today that we didn't get to look at the last video, the last 2 part of the collection. So I ended up getting Blade Knight online through eBay, of course, and this is the Obnoxious Celtic Guard. So once again, thanks, Mateos, for helping me out with that. We're going to go to the Blade Knight first. I did buy this, I think, if I go back, as a near mint. Maybe the condition wasn't described in it. I bought it at pretty much near mint pricing, so my hope is that this thing is in, once again, good condition. As always, we'll be going over the quartering, the surface, the centering, and anywhere, and if I would personally grade it, whether or not. Let's have a look at this guy here now. So, Blade Knight, really good condition again. Centering seems to be alright on this guy. It doesn't look to be too lopsided. Maybe a little bit bottom heavy on this if you see that there, but really not bad. Surface looks clean. The foiling looks clean. Looking at the back of it, we generally have, you see those scratches in the back there. So, again, a little bit tin wear. It's really hard to get these old promos in really good condition just because they were not packaged super nicely in their tins. Edges not perfect. We can see a little bit of wear in the edges. Corners not perfect. So again, through my humble personal opinion, would not grade it, but I definitely think it's near mint. I definitely bought it at a near mint price. I'm happy for what I paid for it. Going to the next card, the Obnoxious Celtic Guard. I spoiled this myself a little bit for me today. I was having a kind of a peek at it when I got it, because again, you take it out, I take the tape off the top loaders and all that. I make them presentable for the video in order to not waste time. I hate wasting time when I do these videos. I like to keep everything brief and to the point, so that's the guy that does these for 30 minutes. The Obnoxious Celtic Guard, but there's one thing I wanted to have a look at, and that was the foiling on this. Okay, there it is. So through the top loader, this didn't look like it had like a secret rare foiling. I could very briefly see the edges, so I knew it wasn't like a total super rare, but yeah, man, that looks real nice, and I did not buy this expensively. So off the bat, you can see the card's a little bit warped. Warping doesn't really super affect it when it comes to everything. These can always be flattened out. Humidity will cause this over time. These are really easy to fix if they are warped. Having a look at the centering. Centering does not look the absolute worst in this guy. Definitely not any complaints about it. The front surface doesn't look too bad. The foiling and everything looks okay. I'm pretty happy with the front. Having a look at the back here, same deal as always. You get your minor wear, scuffing from, again, sitting in a tin being battered around all the time. It does seem like in the bottom here there looks like to be some, I would call it humidity wear, if you will. I can kind of pull that in there a little bit. It's not creased or anything. I'm not really too upset about it. It is in good enough condition, but definitely warped. I'm definitely going to want to try to straighten this one out for sure. But yeah, we now have all 6 pieces. So now the key is, now the question is do I sell them? Do I keep them? Of course, like I said, my intention with these, with this series, is to buy these things in pieces as I go, buy things at a market value, and try to sell them for a little bit on, or maybe even over the market value. I'm not always going to guarantee that that's always going to happen, but we're always going to give it a try. Again, going back, if you didn't watch the previous video, you really should, because I went over all the metrics, all the numbers. I spent, I think, about $63 on these guys altogether. Not a whole lot for 6 incredible condition promos. I don't think there was anyone that was there that was really questionable in its conditioning. Everything there was extremely good. So again, I'll give everybody on eBay some positive feedback. Thanks, Mateos, as well. I'll give you one more shout out. Once again, you just saved my absolute ass. Cannot believe that. So let's go into the future. Let's go into part 3. And I actually have a kind of a funny story about what I'm doing next. Again, if you watched the previous video, if you didn't, go watch that. I did spoil what we're going to watch, or what I'm going to get into. But we'll talk about that right now after this nice, not sponsored, big old thirsty sip of water. It is hot as shit in my house. I'm so sweaty right now. I don't know if you can see that, but like... Oh, baby, that's good. That is some high quality H2O there. So... getting into the next round of cards. We have some absolute hood classics from my childhood. Exodia, but not just any Exodia. We're talking Dark Beginning 1 Exodia. One of the only sets that these were reprinted in common. For people who do not know what Dark Beginning is, Dark Beginning, basically, effectively, simply, was the very first ever reprint pack ever made in Yu-Gi-Oh's history. Obviously, we had all these legendary sets, all these big hammer sets that came up back in the day. This is the first set that actually reprinted a lot of those big hitting cards. One of those big hitting cards, one of those legendary classic. Still to this day, my absolute favorite cards of all time was Exodia. Now, I managed to secure these 4 pieces in a really funny way. I'm going to tell you the story. But it actually starts, this actually starts way back in about 2006, right before I actually quit Yu-Gi-Oh! And I want to talk about this card here. I've actually had this card for a long time. I may actually replace this or buy another copy of this just because, first of all, it's not in the best condition, clearly. But also because it's kind of sentimental to me. This is one of the few cards that I actually kept around for the longest time. You know, even after I quit, this is one of the few things that I actually held on to as a Yu-Gi-Oh card. And the reason that I held on to this as a kid was I was obsessed with Exodia. Obsessed. I thought it was the greatest card of all time. To have a set of it, to even get a piece of it, was legendary, right? I knew people had Blue Eyes White Dragons. I knew people had Dark Magicians and all that stuff there. But I never, in my life when I was a kid, actually saw somebody have a set of Exodia. Not even a piece. As a matter of fact, I never really got a hold of Exodia in my life. So I thought it was like some big, huge, rare thing to own Exodia. Turns out it wasn't that big of a deal, but, you know, when you're 9 years old and you've got a malleable brain, it's a pretty crazy thing. And I remember going to a tournament, I believe. I say tournament, I mean like local library play kind of deal. And I remember a guy having a binder full of trades and things like that. And I managed to juke that guy for a Blue Eyes White Dragon. He's like, oh yeah, I'll pay you $10 for it. I'll get you tomorrow kind of deal. And just never show up again or something like that. I feel bad, bro. If you're ever watching this video, I owe you $10 for that Blue Eyes White Dragon, by the way. But that guy had a bunch of Exodia. And this is because at the time that I was going, Dark Beginning 1 had just released. And everybody was opening packs, so people were getting these pieces. I mean, they're commons in the set. It's not like they're hard to get the limbs of Exodia. The only thing missing, of course, is the head. That's what I'm trying to track down right now. So we will pilot another episode of this guy as soon as we get the head and we complete the set. But to keep the story kind of brief, I'm rambling on. I ended up going and hanging out with some friends of my stepdad's. My stepdad had like a friend that lived like provinces away that came over home. And anyways, one of their kids had Yu-Gi-Oh cards. And he ended up having this leg of Exodia here. So I don't know if I managed to trade for it. I think I traded a Dark Magician or something for it. But I remember being absolutely gobsmacked that I owned a piece of Exodia. It was like the greatest day of my life. This is the first time I've ever in my life owned a piece of Exodia. Clearly, I did not treat it right because, you know, giant crease in the middle. But just to have that known that is just super huge for me. And of course, not long after, once I started working a job, got my own money, I ended up buying, of course, the full LOB set that I own today that you've seen and I've talked about a million times. My greatest investment piece I've ever had in my life. I'm so happy to own it. So I ended up just having that, and I decided I was going to go track down the rest of the pieces. But I didn't remember what leg I had, and I didn't remember what piece I had in general. So when I was going out and buying, I was buying totally on a limb. Get it? Limb? God, I'm so sorry. But I ended up stumbling onto this on my regular eBay tour. My regular buys, sells, whatever. And I was like, shit, That's cheap, like $2.50, and I think that's about what I got it for too. I don't think I like went crazy high in these bids. Now the rest of the cards in this set kind of just bulky. They're not really anything worth looking at. The Hamon's a legendary collection, so it was worth a few bucks. But I noticed two dark beginning Exodia limbs, and I went, I'm gonna go buy that because I want Exodia anyways. Anything that's Exodia, I buy Exodia. It doesn't matter. I see a piece of Exodia, I buy Exodia. That's just the way I work. That's the way I live, bro. I see Exodia, I buy Exodia, no matter what. So I bet on it. I got this for a couple bucks. Turns out, which I didn't know, they were actually pieces that were not the left leg that I already owned. So I already, now at this point, ended up having two fresh pieces. I actually didn't get these in the mail for a while. This took like 3 weeks to come in. I only got this like, I would say less than a week ago. These came back in the mail. And then I had three pieces. And again, I didn't remember which limbs or whatever I had. I just had them. I just had them. And I was, anyway, shopping at my local game store the other day, and I like to browse through their binders and browse through the whatever. I buy a lot of cards, and those guys, way way cheaper than buying anywhere else. I love buying from those guys. They really just incredible in pricing. But what ended up happening, as I talk here and I go back into my face, there we go, was they had another limb of Exodia from Dark Beginning 1. And at this point, I was just like, yeah, fuck it, why not? I'm just going to buy it. Did it not end up being the right arm? Left arm. No, it was the right arm because it was this one here. Yeah. One of the limbs that I didn't have. Curious. So as I started doing my complete collections challenge, as I normally do, I decided that I put all the cards together and I looked and holy shit, I have 4 different limbs. And I was in the midst of building my tin promos over here that I had. And I decided we're going to build Exodia. We're going to do it. So I'm currently in the midst of looking for, at this point, an Exodia head. It's what the last piece I'm missing is the head from Dark Beginning. Now, it is a bit of a harder piece to track down. It is not a common. It is actually printed in ultra rare. It's one of the few ultra rares from Dark Beginning. It is not terribly expensive. I will expect to probably buy it for anywhere from $20 to $40, depending on condition, depending on how risky I want to pay for it. I'm expecting to pay on the lower side, but it's doable. But the question still begs is, do I replace this leg? Because of course we know the rules of this challenge is that I want to have all the cards in decent enough condition. And I will sell them, I will hold on to them or whatever if they're not in perfect condition. Like even this right arm here, I can even see, I haven't even literally looked at it. I bought it and kind of put it away. Like we can look at it, it's not, let's have a look at it right now. It's not in the greatest condition. You know what, actually, other than the corners, like the edge aren't great on it, but like, yeah, it's not bad, actually. It's seen play, it's had better days, but yeah, so I'm thinking I'm probably going to track down another leg. I think it's fair that we get a fresh left leg. Let's get one that's in fairly decent condition. Let's get ahead. We're going to ahead of ourselves. I know, I'm an absolute genius. Anyways, but yeah, we now have all the tin promos. That's incredible. Look at that, man. We have all of these now. I'm going to enjoy this series very much. To build full collections like that, it feels rewarding. It feels cool, man. Like this is what I live for. This is why I started Yu-Gi-Oh. Anyways, it's 14 minutes. I'm rambling. I think we get the point here. We're gonna leave that brief today, but yeah, we're making headway. See you in the next episode, guys. Love yous. Have a good night. Bye bye.